yeah. Me, like other, people in our family, like my brother Drew and my brother Chris, also did the same thing. We grew up in the business. Uh, I started when I was 10 years old, sweeping floors and pumping gas. And then as I got older, then I started working in the shop and learned the mechanical end of it. And then I ran the parts department one summer when we needed help. And then when I was in high school, either junior, senior, then I started selling cars. And then I sold them, of course, once I got back from college. That's how I kept going.
All right, that's great.
Other people use, there's a couple of technical schools. I think one's called Norwood University that's do specific training for people in the automotive business. So that would be another way that people get into the business and the preparation that they have for it.
Great, and that would have been here in Cresco, the Cresco Ray Price, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right, great. And so, and then the second one, how is the history of Ray Price, how he got started, and how the business grew?
My grandfather, of course, grew up here, and there wasn't a whole lot of work, so he went to the Oranges in New Jersey, where his older brother was working for Armour Meats in a meat packing plant. And he tried that for a while, but working in the big freezers, his joints couldn't take it. He had like early arthritis. So he just couldn't follow through on it. So he came home. But what he had seen down there was the automobile. So when he got back here, he opened up what he called a jitney service, which is like a taxi service, and would take people from the railroad station in Cresco to the different hotels when they'd come in, driving around. And somewheres I've got a little log book that he used to keep. But he did that for quite a while. And then he was going to build a garage where he could keep his car and do work on it for maintenance and everything. And one day a guy was driving by and stopped in, was kind of checking things out, and just said, "Hey, do you want to be a Ford dealer?" And that's how he got to be a Ford dealer.
So it was just luck of the draw.
Yep.
It could have been somebody else. It could have been a Chevy dealer.
Oh, yeah. Well, what you have to realize is that years ago, like right up in Mount Pocono where the fork in the road is, that's that gas station quick shop there, that used to be a Pontiac dealer at one time.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. If you go, let's start Newfoundland, where Lightning Auto is, that was a Ford dealer at one time. Over in Tannersville, where 314 comes into 611 on the corner, it was an old Starner's Quick Shop. Lowell Starner's grandfather had a Ford dealership there. Every little town had Central Garage up in Pocono Pines was a Ford dealer, which is now, I don't know, another quick shop of some sort right there by Lake Naomi.
Wow,
so
that's
there were lots of them around. Yep.
All right, that's great.
Another interesting aside was, of course, the Dodge brothers worked with Henry Ford.
Right.
And then they had the big falling out when Henry Ford took the company back to himself with, buying up all the stock and everything else and all that. And the Dodge brothers were out. So they started Dodge Motor Corporation, or whatever the correct term was for it back then. And we didn't realize this until maybe 10 years ago, 13 years ago. When we moved to Mount Pocono, there were all these signs on the wall in the shop that were painted blue, and they had pictures of tools on them, so you knew where to hang everything. So we were taking those down, and two guys are carrying it at either end, and as they're going by somebody, the other person said, "Oh my word, look at that." And they'd, "What?" "Look at the back of the sign." The back of the sign said, Ray Price at Dodge. And what had happened, we found out later. Yeah, we found old postcards and everything where his brother had been out in Detroit, talking to Dodge and ordering cars or trucks or whatever. And Ford found out that the Dodge brothers, of course, they knew who all the Ford dealers were. And they went around and said, hey, do you want to sell Dodges? Which my grandfather must have said, yeah. So he started selling Dodges at the same time. Unfortunately, Henry Ford found out about it and sent people around and said, hey, hold on a second. If you want to sell Dodges, that's fine, but you're not selling Fords anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So he kept on with the Fords. I think it's an irony now that, almost 100 years later, that we ended up with, a Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram
Right,
franchise.
as well as Ford under the same roof.
Yep.
Yeah. That's interesting. And that would have been in the 20s?
I believe that would be when it was, or the late teens, one or the other. I'm not sure. You could probably look up Dodge Brothers and Ford Motor Company in their history, or Google it, and it'll show when Henry Ford took the Ford private again, and those guys left, and when they started up Dodge Motor Corp.
Well, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And
number 3. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, which actually goes into the third one there. The Ford and Chevy in the same dealership. Is it the same kind of situation there? Because that's rare.
It's real rare. And what happened is I was talking to Jim Smedley one day, and I knew he was getting older, and I'd always told him, hey, if you're interested in selling, let me know. And he called me one day and said, I'm interested in selling. So I met with him, and we came up with a plan, and it all worked out. Except that then we had to go to Philadelphia to General Motors branch office down there to get their approval. And, of course, everybody was saying, this is, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And what you have to realize is where Pocono Pool and Spa was, that's where the Chevy building was. It wasn't in the same building as Ford when we did this, okay? So we went down there, and, you had to have, extensive experience in the automotive area, as well as the financial backing to do it, which we had both of them. So we met with a guy down there who was the district manager, and believe it or not, his last name was Price. His name was Fred Price. And so we did all the paperwork, signed everything, and when it was all over and done with, and they take pictures and send you a framed picture later of the signing, he said, I asked him, well, what do you think about a Ford dealer buying a Chevy store? And he just looked at me and he goes, in the old days, this would have never happened.
Right. I guess at some point. I mean, and the only reason they let you do that is because it was a separate entity, almost a separate building.
Well, it was a separate building, yeah. What they didn't realize was that, several years after that, we moved the Ford store to Mount Pocono. I was leasing that building from Mrs. Smedley. Jim Smedley had passed away, and we couldn't come to a deal. And I told her she wanted a lot more money, and I told her, I said, it's not worth that to me, and I'll pay you more than anybody else because nobody else has a franchise, or is big enough to go in there, and still couldn't get a deal. So when the day that the lease was running out, I had all kinds of people hired to drive all the cars from one spot in Cresco to the other spot. And all the mechanics and everybody packed up all the tools. It took us all day long and left.
And that
it
would have
wasn't
been
until years later that then it got moved to Mount Pocono.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And that was what in the 70s? When you picked up Chevy?
92.
90. Oh, it was recent. Okay, I thought it was a long time ago.
No.
No.
After my father died. He died in 91. I think it was in the summer of 92, maybe a little bit after that.
All right, that's interesting. Oh, no, that's fine. All right, and so if we were to move along there, what attributes do you believe are necessary to be a successful entrepreneur, like academic, moral, personal?
I don't know. I looked at that. That's a pretty good question. Of course, it's to your advantage, to have some kind of academia experience, but it's not required to do it. It takes more of a personal thing, being willing to, a lot of hard work, and it becomes, a huge part of your life because you spend a lot of time there as opposed to with your family or whatever. And of course,
Right.
without a moral compass, and especially in a small town, you better treat everybody right, or they're not coming back. So
Right.
morally, you have to do the right thing. Yeah, it's like the Rotarians. His first point of the 4-point test on Rotary is it fair to all concerned?
Mm-hmm.
Or no, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Is it beneficial to all concerned? That's about all I can say about that.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, that's wonderful.
What brands are most successful?
Yeah. No, I understand that you've had others, right? But it's been pretty much Ford and Chevy.
Yeah, the whole bunch of us. I mean,
yes.
We had the oldest Ford dealership in Pennsylvania, the oldest Lincoln Mercury dealership. I mean, they were all good franchises.
Yeah.
And as you say, some of the newer stuff, it's hard to say. But once again, we're selling Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram.
Yeah. Yeah, in Mount Pocono, you have the big three, right?
Yep.
Yep. All right. So, I mean, they've all been successful in their own way. One is not more valuable than another.
No, not really.
No. Okay. All right. So I understand, right? I remember you used to have Suzuki as one, and they pulled out of the U.S. market.
That's correct.
What do you think from a sales point of view? I know they had their own reasons, I'm sure, but from your point of view, what led them to pull out of the U.S. market?
Well, but my idea is because we were selling a lot of them, but they didn't do well in a lot of other areas, especially in the South. And I think what happened was they finally realized, okay, I don't know why we're shipping these all the way across the ocean. We have to put catalytic converters on them and 5-mile-an-hour bumpers on them, where the two largest emerging markets are China and India, which are right next to us, and we don't have to put catalytic converters or 5-mile-an-hour bumpers on it. So we save on the shipping, we save on the cost, and I don't think they had the production to do both. So we lost.
Right. And that was weren't they owned by General Motors, or
no.
in part, or no? They were just
no.
Okay.
Daewoo was owned by General Motors for a while.
Oh, okay. All right. Nice. All right. If you can
expand brands.
Expand your business.
I don't know what my cousins would do, because that would be all their things, since I'm pretty much all out of it anymore. I would assume whatever if something became available around, they'd buy it.
Oh, I see. I see.
If you got like Hyundai or somebody who's selling the Toyota stores in Stroudsburg, I'm sure that they'd be a real buyer. And of course, all the manufacturers know, okay, these guys have been in it for 100 years. They've got nice facilities, beautiful facilities. They're committed. That's the guy we want. We don't want some guy that's in a back alley kind of deal.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Just someone that's just starting up. All right. Okay. So here, let's keep going there. From your perspective, what is
sales
the
and service? What is?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You got to treat them right. You guys. Everybody today is on the internet, so the market's gotten much larger. When I started to participate in the family business, it was you knew almost everybody in town. Well, now in Mount Pocono, you hardly know anybody that walks in the door. But if you treat them right, and of course they go on the internet and they look at all the reviews, and if you've got better reviews than the nearest or other surrounding Ford, Chevy, Dodge, Jeep, Ram dealers or whatever, they come to see you because everybody has already told them, these guys are great.
Right.
You can do it on Dealer Rater, you can do it on Facebook reviews, you can do it on Yelp.
Yeah. Right. So it's the same idea. It's just more people will be talking about it because it's on the internet.
Yeah.
Right. The same idea that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, no worries. Now, General Motors has muscled through bankruptcy.
Right.
Was there business plan and product change, and was it enough?
Yeah, since 2008, after their bankruptcy.
Right. Well, evidently, I mean, they got lean. They got rid of, Hummer. They got rid of Buick and they've got Buick still, Pontiac and Oldsmobile. They streamlined everything.
Right.
They had
rid of a lot of deadweight brands. Yeah.
Yep. They had to get lean and get tough, and the same with Chrysler and Ford. Now, of course, Ford is the only one that never got into bankruptcy, but they mortgaged everything big time to get through the whole thing without having to borrow from the feds. And,
right.
Pardon me, you can see now, because I guess, and don't quote me on this because I'm not exact, you can look up the true information, but General Motors just had a terrible quarter. Lost billions and billions of dollars, right? And so did everybody else. And that's no fault of the economy. Was good. Everything else was good. Everybody had product. And then along comes a pandemic. So you don't know what to expect. You do the best you can, and then who knows what's going to happen.
Right. No one was selling any cars for a couple of months.
That's correct. And General Motors was on strike for 7 weeks before that.
Oh. So, all right. So
where do I see the auto industry going? Everybody's going electric.
Really? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you see that as a replacement for gasoline, or?
They keep predicting staggering numbers. It's going to be a lot slower, I think, than what they think. In the metro areas, you're going to see it's all electric. Like in New York City, all the cabs are electric. Okay, they don't emit gases. They've got charging stations all over. It's not a big issue. You know as well as I do, when you live up here, the best thing you can have is something that's a big sport utility like a Suburban or whatever. You can pour 9 Boy Scouts in it and drive it to the NOAC out in Indiana without having to stop and charge your car and all that nonsense.
Right, on one tank.
Right.
So there'll be a place, I believe, for big vehicles in the future, even if. All right.
Yeah, even though electric's going to, all the smaller stuff, all the cars, you see them all over anymore. That's going to be the way in the metro areas, and the commuter car with only one guy in it and all those. But there's going to still be a big section, and this is just my opinion, for the gas-powered automobiles that can travel a distance and enough space for everything.
Right. Okay.
Pardon me.
All right, going back to your history, your family history. Ford and GM were the biggest 2 companies in the auto industry in the whole 20th century. What do you think added to their success? What was the secret of their success? Why was it them and not somebody else?
Well, really, there were no imports being sold in the U.S. when it was the big 3. That was until the early 60s, and then all of a sudden you got like the first Datsuns, which were actually Nissans. The model was a Datsun, but there was a communication breakdown, and they thought the franchise was Datsun, but it wasn't. But they slowly trickled in, and they were ahead of the curve when it came to small, inexpensive, gas-efficient vehicles, and they did a good job at it. And then the big 3 were playing catch-up all of a sudden. Now they've all adapted, but now everybody's got a smaller piece of the pie.
Right. Everybody has a foothold, so everybody's sharing a bigger. All right.
And that's why now they start redesigning cars all the time, like like the Cruze. I mean, that was essentially the same car when it was a Cavalier, a Cobalt, and a Cruze. Well, now they know you can't wait that long. You can't have a car that looks the same. Even trucks, you can't have a truck that looks the same for 10 years. It's got to be refreshed like every 3 or 4 years. America's got eyeballs for cars, and that's what they like, is whatever's the new thing, you got to have the new car. We're not like Eastern Europe and the Soviet bloc, where if you have a Lada car, they're all the same. Nobody cares. It just gets you from A to B. Americans aren't like that.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I had a question. I thought, it's interesting and ironic that the original Ford company back in the teens didn't even build trucks, right? People used to do that aftermarket and have trucks made off of his original, like Model T, Model A, right?
That's correct.
And then now for the last, 30-something years, it's been the F-Series.
41 years.
40 years, wow.
41 years, yep.
Yep, 41 years. Do you see that as a continuing trend as Ford gets rid of cars?
Oh, definitely, because I'm going to take that question right
Yeah.
there, which you're talking about, number 12.
Yeah.
And, on the second page, then cars are disappearing and what's changed and all that, which is all the same thing. It's what the people want. If you drive down the road, everybody's got an SUV. So you know what? We're not going to make many cars anymore. We're going to make more SUVs.
Right.
You got to drive yourself to win the market. You've got to, constantly analyze it and really look deep as to what do people want. What don't they want?
And so now you don't feel Ford just sacrificed market share to like a Hyundai or Toyota. Yeah, it's not going to hurt them in the longer run.
What, a small car?
Well, like not making, so there won't be a Focus anymore. So people will buy Corolla, or are they just going to get an SUV, or just that market share is just not even worth the effort?
Well, that's just it, because the market's going away. They're not selling it. They used to sell, hundreds of thousands of little cars every year. The Ford Escorts and Focus and all that stuff. It was a bread and butter car. Well, you know what? People come in now, and instead of the Cruze the Cruze that they could have gotten, all right. Now you put them in an all-wheel or a front-wheel or all-wheel drive Chevy Trax, which looks like an SUV, and that's what they say that it is, but essentially for the same amount of money. Well, you know what? That's what they want is an SUV, so they're gonna buy it, especially when the prices are very close. Yeah,
especially, yeah. All right, and I believe you already hit. How did Ray Price choose Ford and Chevy over Nash? Yeah. So we already know that. And then, so as just for the future of the auto industry, how do you see U.S. automakers competing from here going forward?
It's going to be the same thing. You got to be at the cutting edge of the market. You can see it. The Tesla is doing a great job with electric cars, even though Ford had hybrid cars. Chrysler had them. Chevrolet had them. I mean, hell, Chevy used to make 4 years ago electric or hybrid Tahoes. I mean, they even tried it in the bigger stuff. Ford has the hybrid F-150s. They just didn't come out and catch the market the way it should be. Now even for the sports cars to compete with the Tesla and everything, they have the Mach-E Mustang, which is an electric Mustang, which is selling like crazy. Everybody wanted the retro look. That's what they finally learned. They kept changing the Mustang. Everybody loved them in 65, 66, 67, the classic Mustang. Well, when they made a Mustang 2 with a 4-cylinder motor, nobody bought them. And they couldn't figure out why. Well, nobody wants that.
Right.
All right. But now all the Mustang, Camaro, the Dodge Challenger, and Chargers, they all look like that late 60s, early 70s model. And the people love it. It's a great design. It's not broken. Don't fix it.
Yeah. So they're just reading the market, finding something that people will desire, and then making it. Yeah.
That's correct. I mean, if they find out that we can run cars on some kind of engine that converts water to hydrogen and oxygen and powers it, they've been talking about it for years. I'm going to tell you, if they can do it running on water, the gas engines are going away. That's it. It's over. Right. It's done. All right. If they don't get the miracle, well, they're going to keep making gas engines.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. All right.